I'm trading it in. I don't really keep one or two iPhones around. I'm not running a museum for Apple gear, but I'll always hold on to my original iPhone SE. This phone, my bae. And I'll be spending a little bit more time with the new iPhone SE. I'm testing out iOS 14. I might try and grab an iPhone 12 when it's out, but there really hasn't been much reason to keep my old iPhone XS. Sending it off, I thought I'd share a few thoughts on this middle child phone and how it never seemed to quite live up to Apple's claims. This is the phone that broke my streak for recommending the S series iPhones. Every major iPhone number release has had issues fixed by the S option. iPhone 4, antenna gate. iPhone 5, battery issues. iPhone 6, bend gate and touch disease. The S has historically been the safer and more powerful option, kinda until now. The XS is the second of a 3-year run for this general form factor. It's built well, it has a nice screen, has a decent camera, and there's not much about how it performs or how it's been updated that makes someone feel like they're using a $1,000 phone. The nail in the coffin came when I picked up the new iPhone SE. Now, Apple gets a ton of credit for software support, and when it comes to core operating system updates, they really are second to none. But the XS was a premium tier phone, and through iOS 13 felt largely ignored. Firing up the SE, getting access to the new camera layout and UI. It shouldn't take 2 years and a massive operating system update to include the ability of shooting 16:9 photos, or having the option to change video resolution in the camera app. I'm glad it's finally here on the iOS 14 beta, but it took so long that I'd already mostly walked away from using the XS as a competitive option against other premium phones. If you don't want to fall behind in these basic quality of life software improvements, just don't be poor. Buy a new $1,000 phone every year to get some software tweaks, or you can just wait until Apple feels like getting around to the phone you bought. Apple, don't speak broke. Like I said, Apple deserves a ton of credit for these operating system updates, and I know people are going to celebrate. They're going to highlight Apple software by pointing out the obvious operating system fragmentation on Android. But that oversimplifies the radical differences between how Apple rolls everything into these massive updates, and Google separates a ton of components from the operating system to update through Google Play, like the recent addition of Nearby Share. The Android version of AirDrop was included in Google Play services and works all the way back to Android 6. But I digress. Back to the XS. We're not talking about major features here. These are tiny quality of life examples that almost feel punitive, not power user features dependent on more powerful hardware. They feel like another pain point. If you delay long enough, you'll get some people to upgrade sooner than they need to. It just works. Performance also didn't quite do it for me either. Now, I know Apple loves showing these unlabeled bar graphs touting the superiority of their hardware, and tech reviewers breathlessly parrot Apple marketing slides. For a company that really pushes the narrative of content creation, the reality just doesn't live up to that marketing. To be sure, this is still a snappy phone today, but fluid UI navigation doesn't justify this price tag, nor fulfill the lofty aspirational claims made by Apple about top-tier power. We're not talking about covering the social media basics. We're talking about getting $1,000 worth of performance out of a phone. A simple edit to a single video clip, and on iOS 12, my XS regularly lost to my LG V30. Performance perked up a little, upgrading to iOS 13, but the XS spent most of its life as the phone Apple sold directly against some powerhouse Androids like the S10 and the LG V50. Apple can claim the A12 outperforms the Snapdragon 855, but again, it wasn't hard to pit it against comparably priced Androids that could beat it in numerous heavy lifting situations. Apple, not me, Apple makes these bold claims about content creation and video editing even today with the iPhone 11 Pro, but the Pixel 4 XL today is beating my iPhone SE and the 11 Pro when it comes to chewing up 4K video. Apple marketing benchmark PowerPoint slides are not real life. And that brings us to some of the unrealized potential. Apple was on the brink of something truly revolutionary for interacting with the phone. They had a chance to do something special. a component we paid for and was largely devalued over the life of the phone. I'm of course talking about 3D touch, force pressing, an awesome alternative interaction, and Apple completely dropped the ball on it. And we're being fair. Alternative interactions are not easy. In Android land, we keep playing with air gestures. But for every nerd complaining about gimmicks like Soli or Z cameras, Apple deserves just as much ire, maybe more, for giving up on 3D touch. iOS 13 turned peeking and popping into the same kind of delayed long press for all iPhones. The only thing that kind of remains, popping anywhere on the keyboard to move the cursor, is better than long pressing the spacebar. But pointing that out is largely moot. It's an evolutionary dead end. I still maintain that if Apple was going to get rid of the home button, and they were also looking to give up on 3D peeking and popping shortcuts, why not turn your whole screen into a home button? Instead of using some dumb edge swipe to replicate partial home button functionality. I wish I could have had this conversation with my grandmother. Okay, Nana, they got rid of the home button on your new iPhone, and I know you have a little arthritis, but now when you want to go home, you just push harder on the screen. Oh yeah, anywhere on the screen. All the rest of your quick settings and notifications are exactly where they used to be. It just works. Instead of having this conversation. Okay, Nana, they got rid of the home button on your new iPhone, and I know you have a little arthritis, but now when you want to go back home, you have to balance the phone in your hand so you can swipe up from the bottom edge. It's got to be in one fluid motion. I know. If you delay that swipe, it either won't recognize the swipe, or if you take too long, it'll throw you into that multitasking view. No, yeah, you're right. That is where your quick settings used to be, but now those are on the top of the phone, but only on part of the screen. That's right, because on the other side of the screen, that's where your notifications are. And if you miss this top edge, like if you don't swipe right around the notch, then you just bring up the in-phone search. You just have to be really careful with your mildly arthritic hands where and in what direction you swipe. It just works. You know I'm totally kidding. We'll be getting my grandmother an iPhone SE. I could go on. iOS 14 kind of addresses my concerns with iOS apps and clutter. It's hilarious how much it feels like a poor version of Windows Phone. It's so close that the clumsy bits stick out even more. For those people that say things like, now that iPhones have an app drawer and widgets, there's no reason to buy an Android anymore. It's funny because the converse of that statement rings just as true. If you care about those kinds of UI features, why not use a phone that does them better? Notifications are still kind of a mess. Meh. I've never liked using Face Unlock as much as using a fingerprint, and that's just gotten way worse when I wear a mask out in public. It still drives me absolutely crazy that I have no option to bypass the lock screen after Face ID scans me. Now, interactions with the iPhone SE are just so much more organic when I want to use the phone, and I don't have to give it my whole visual and tactile attention just to get back to my home screen. I'm not the kind of guy who's just sitting there looking at my lock screen. When I handle my phone, it's because I want to use it. I have an Apple Watch to cover my notifications and alerts. Ultimately, the XS just ended up being a regular good phone at a top premium phone price. It feels a little like the neglected middle child gadget. You didn't get any of the redesigned wow factor of the iPhone X, and the iPhone 11 came with more substantial camera improvements. As a 2-year postmortem, I'm disappointed. $999 for a good screen, good cameras, okay battery life, poor radios and connectivity, and 64 gigabytes of storage. I mean, even a Pixel 3a from the same general era has a really good night mode built into that camera, but we can't have that on the awesomely powerful Apple A12. It just works, but it doesn't make you feel special. So I'm flipping this to buy something else. Maybe it'll help me chip away at my credit card bill for a Surface Duo. I don't know. Looking through my notes and my gadget diary spreadsheet, I used my classic iPhone SE a lot more than I used my XS. and I'm feeling pretty good about the new SE for similar reasons. It's a punchy little Mighty Mouse. It's more practical for brief interactions, especially while wearing a mask. And this price makes it a lot more fun to play with. My Apple Watch helps fix some of my issues with the iPhone and iOS. And the combo of an SE and an Apple Watch is a much more reasonable purchase, IMO, than a more premium iPhone all by itself. And I guess that's the last point to wrap this up. I've rambled on long enough. We tech reviewers make so many videos swooning over the brand new shiny. The iPhone XS was going to be my return to Apple coverage after leaving Pocket Now. Expectations were high, early reviews were glowing, I'm on the S train, and then we just moved on to the next new shiny. And we don't spend as much time as we should going back to confirm our earlier assessments. The iPhone XS was a fine phone. I kinda wish I hadn't spent $1,000 on fine. I'm not really gonna miss it. As always, thanks so much for watching, for sharing these videos, and subscribing to the channel. Supporting your favorite content creators has never been more critical than it is today. So I hope you'll check out the links below and the merch, which help me not pack every video I make with baked in ads and sponsorships. There's the support page on SomeGadgetGuy.com, or you might consider joining the list of names scrolling by from my Patreon. That's a super cool collection of fun tech pals, so I hope you'll check them out. They're really good people. Now, you know where you can find me around the rest of the internet, at SomeGadgetGuy on the Twitters and the Twitch, and the Facebooks and the Instagrams, and I will catch you all on the next video.